So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Grey Scott Thursdays. Grey Scott Thursday is a series of webinars we organize every Thursday at 10 on various HPC topics, such as this one today on memory allocation, which will be presented by Sébastien Valla from INRIA. But first, let me give you a little presentation of the organization team. So Pierre Robert is a research engineer from the LAP, the French Laboratory of Physics and Particles in Annecy, in the French mountains, and Karim Azoum and I from Terratech, within the French NCC called CCFR, and with the LAP of Annecy, we co-organize the Grey Scott Thursday and the Grey Scott School. Because the 17 Grey Scott Thursdays you will discover are held by 9 incredible teachers who will each of them give you webinars on their topics, introducing at the same time the program of the summer school. So what is Grey Scott School? It's a free summer school dedicated on programming and optimization on heterogeneous architecture. Created 2 years ago by Pierre with a few people in Annecy. We joined him last year to help him develop it not only in Annecy, but also in 12 satellite sites among 4 countries. Those satellite sites helped us reach more people by broadcasting the school live in their locations. So the summer school had a 2-week program, 1 week on CPU and 1 week on GPU, but everybody was free to choose the courses they wanted to attend, thanks to our a la carte option. So we finally trained over 500 people, and everything is available still on replays on our website and YouTube channel. So you can access it if you want, but everything was in French. So this year we are going European, so everything will be in English, like this webinar. And you have various ways to attend the school. As you'll see in the video I'm going to launch for you. And also we invite you to be part of the team and become a satellite site yourself if you want to host the school at your place. We are able to provide you everything, all courses, containers, access to the teachers, and also to connect you with our growing HPC community. So now let me show you the video for you.
Do you sometimes feel limited by your resources or unsure how to maximize the potential of your HPC resources? Imagine a place where collaboration, creativity, and learning converge with high-performance computing. Welcome to Grey Scott School 2025, Europe's leading summer school for HPC. Taking place from June 23rd to July 4th. Over 2 weeks, students, academics, and industry professionals from across Europe will explore the frontiers of programming while building a vibrant community. Together, we'll discuss programming and optimization on heterogeneous architectures, highlighting their respective characteristics and limitations. You'll have a unique opportunity to explore generic optimization methods, as well as the latest technologies and languages for achieving optimal performance. The school is free and open to everyone, and you can participate in person in Annecy, France, with the teachers, at one of our satellite sites in Europe, or online via our live streaming. You can choose from an intensive program or a la carte courses to develop your skills at your own pace. With the first week dedicated on CPU and the second on GPU architectures, you will study computational accuracy, vectorization, parallelization, compilation, memory profiling, unit testing, and the various programming languages C++, Fortran, Rust, Python, and Julia. In addition, we will study the MPI, OpenSHMEM, OpenMP, TBB, EVE, Kiwaku, Cycle, Thirst, CUDA, OpenACC, Vulkan, NumPy, Number, CuPy, CUNumeric, JAX libraries, and Legit, as well as computation with PyTorch and TensorFlow, and the G++, Clang++, NVC++, NV-Fortran, G-Fortran, and DPC++ compilers. Throughout the course, you'll discover and use profiling tools such as Valgrind, Perf, Macau, Ensight, Malt, and NumaProf. Each session leads to a practical challenge, the simulation of Gray-Scott's diffusion reaction, which tries to describe how a chemical reaction evolves over time. Simple to understand, but complex enough to push the limits of optimization. Thanks to our specially designed Docker containers, you'll have access to a complete working environment to follow courses and exercises on your laptop or supercalculator. Throughout the program, you'll be guided by a dozen expert instructors, leaders in the field of programming and HPC. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions and chat with them live on Discord, so you can tailor your learning to your needs. Join our growing community of over 500 users to find answers, exchange ideas, take on challenges together, and build bonds that will last well beyond the program. You can also join the Gray-Scott School European network of satellite sites, not only to attend the courses, but why not become a satellite site yourself and host the school in your location? You just need to provide a room, a contact person, and access to computing resources. We'll provide courses, tools, and Docker containers for a seamless learning experience. Gray-Scott School is free and open to all. It's your chance to master advanced programming and optimization, engage with a growing European HPC network, and push the boundaries of technology and training. You can kickstart your journey now by joining Gray-Scott Thursdays, a free webinar series previewing the school's courses. Don't miss out. Register today to attend, whether in person in Annecy, France, or at one of our satellite sites in Europe, or online via our live streaming. Gray-Scott School 2025, where HPC meets your potential.
So if you have any question regarding the school, you can ask them in the Q&A section. And Pierre-Robert and I will be glad to answer you. And thank you for listening to me. Now it's time to give the floor to Pierre-Robert and Sébastien Vallat. Pierre?
Okay, thank you, Marie. So today we will have a webinar from Sébastien about memory allocation and why and how to profile application about that, because you will see that we can have a lot of performance issue with that. So Sébastien did his PhD a few years ago about memory management and memory allocation. So he developed a custom allocator for that, and he used it in a really big applications. So that mainly what Sébastien does. It was to use his allocator on big CA application, and then developed also a system of data acquisition for LHCb when he was working at CERN, and now he's working at INRIA. Or again, he was working on big simulation, and now he's focusing mainly on memory allocation and profilers tool for the memory. I wish you a good webinar, and I give the floor to Sébastien. And if you have questions, you can use the Q&A section.
Welcome to everybody. We'll now start the discussion about memory allocations, and we'll see why and how to profile with the memory profiling tools I'm providing. For this presentation, we'll first give a look on the problem we can encounter about memory management, and to see if there is some existing tools to solve those problems. And after that, I will show the tool I'm providing myself, which is Malt, about malloc tracking, and NumaProf, which is a tool about the NUMA memory access issues. I want to give a special thanks to INRIA and University Grenoble because they are financing me this year to work full-time on Malt. So for the school, you will have some new features arriving. Of course. So as Pierre has told you, I made my PhD around memory management for supercomputers at the CEA and the University of Versailles, and working on a memory profiling, memory allocator, which was done to support multi-threading and NUMA for large numerical simulations, so dedicated to the problems which arise in these kind of applications. And after that, I wanted to expose to the user the view I have about the problems we can encounter about memory management. So I built Malt, which is a malloc tracker, which I developed as a postdoc at the Versailles University in the Exascale Computing Research Laboratory. and it is now open source, so you can use it freely. And after that, I derived Malt as another tool, which is NumaProf, which I made as a side project as a postdoc at CERN, which this time focus on the NUMA aspect of the memory management. So I will present both tools now, focusing a bit more on Malt because of the time limitation. So what is the base of the problem? If you search today, you can find, for example, some large servers. Let's say take one from Supermicro, for example, which has now easily 256 cores. This is quite common now. I mean, common for large servers, but even on your workstation, you have now multi-core processors since a long time. But also, you see that the servers which are available now can also provide up to 6 terabytes of memory. So this is max you can put in, but let's say 4 terabytes. This is accessible now easily. Of course, on such a server, we don't make running a small software of 1000 lines using 1 megabyte of memory because it's useless to buy such a server for that. So we tend to build some large software written in C, C++, Fortran, Rust, or Python now. And of course, when you have a large software, you encounter some problems because it will also do millions of allocations, not just a few. So you will probably start to have some issues about that topic in your program when you reach this scale. Also, in addition, if you build a large software, you probably don't write everything yourself, so you use a lot of libraries, which adds up on the problem because you probably don't know what happens in those libraries. And in addition, if you are making a large program, probably you hired some short-term contracts in research, or you have a lot of developers in your team. So the knowledge about the memory management is not stored in one location in the head of one person, but probably spread over a few persons. Which means that without a tool, it will be very hard to debug the application about that topic if there is some problems. And in addition, we also have a new feature now, which is common in mostly every computer now, which is the NUMA non-uniform memory access. When you have two processors, or when you have so many cores in one processor that it is also split in NUMA domains. So we'll see both. And I will remind here that in 1994, there was two researchers, Wolf and McKee, who wrote a paper about memory management, and they were saying that we will hit at some point the memory wall. So they called that memory wall, saying that at some point, your CPU will compute so fast that it will wait most of the time the data coming from the memory, because the memory is not scaling at the same speed than the CPU today. So it's become slower and slower compared to the CPU. And at some point, most of the time is passed by waiting the data coming from that memory. So the processor builders have made a lot of efforts to try to postpone the time we hit this wall by adding the caches in the processors. So the cache hierarchy you can see here. So it has win in some effects, but the memory wall is kind of still be here for some applications, mostly when we are using a large data sets. So my keyword since my PhD is to say that if you are a developer, you need to understand the memory behavior of your, let's say HPC, but it's also for other case. So the memory behavior of your application if you want to have nice performances, or simply be able to run if you start to hit out of memory problem, which many people encountered still with the new machines we have with a lot of memory. So for the memory management, most of the time the solution when you start to hit the out of memory problem is to add some memory to your servers, but another way is to use some profiling tool to find the source of the problem in your application. So let's first speak a bit about the performance, because to motivate a bit the discussion, I can show one of the results I had during my PhD, which is a run on a large numerical simulation, so multi-physics, multi-material, and mesh refinement, which is one of the biggest code I worked on during my PhD, which was something like 1 million lines of C++, so a large code base, which is impossible for me to understand in one go. So this application had some issues with the memory management part of the system. And we can see here, my first work was to try to compare several memory allocators which were available at that time. So the glibc, which is a Linux default memory allocator, gmalloc, which is a parallel memory allocator, which is one of the best one today, and tcmalloc, which is the memory allocator developed by Google. So gmalloc is now handled by Facebook. And we see that with those two in principle best memory allocators, the performance of the application degrades up to 35%. So already where we expect to win something by changing the memory allocator on this application, we didn't because of some reasons. I will not explain here, but what is important to understand here is that the choice of the memory allocator is impacting 35% of the performance and not just 1 or 2%, which is what we could expect without knowing this domain. Myself, I developed a dedicated memory allocator for the generic one for this application. So just replacing under the application the malloc in use, and I was able to gain at best 60% of performance improvements, so close to a factor 2, just by changing the memory allocator. So not recompiling the application and just running it with a different one. So this is under Linux. So one of the problem was the NUMA aspect, and the other one was that this application was making a lot of big memory allocations, which were killing the performance on the Underwood operating system. So I will not enter in this detail, but just to remember that when we speak about malloc, sometimes, not all the time, this is mostly an extreme case I'm presenting here, but we can see some very large impact on the performance. Also on the memory consumption, because this same application, depending on the memory allocator we are using, we consume a large amount of memory or not. And here we can see that glibc is a bit an average memory consumption, let's say it's 3 gigabytes. Where gmalloc, this is one of the reasons we were trying it, because we were out of memory on some clusters. We wanted to reduce the memory. gmalloc is efficient on that way because it reduced to 2 gigabytes. But on the other side, tcmalloc, which is supposed to be faster, because it was not the case in my previous test for this application. This side is increasing the memory consumption to 7 gigabytes. So let's say the gap is between the worst and the best, a factor 2.5. In terms of memory consumption. So let's say that some applications are still having some big issues on that topic today. So I will not discuss the reason of those large gaps, but saying that to understand what happened in this kind of problems, we need some tools to look at the app, which I would have been happy to have when I was making my PhD. So I first developed Malt, which is meaning malloc tracker, to track all the mallocs in an application and to report them with a nice graphical view. So the idea is to remark that we have, for the time profiling, we have some nice tools. Let's say Valgrind and vtune, for example, under Linux. But for memory usage, we have mostly nothing except Malt, at least for the open source community. So for the problems I wanted to attack, the first one is the lack of memory resources. So if you enter in the problem of out of memory, you want to know at the peak time where your memory is consumed in the application, and possibly the performance impact to understand a bit more. If you are making millions of allocation, where are they? What are their properties, and what can impact the performance of your application depending on the allocator you have Underwood. Possibly also it helps a bit, even if it's not the top topic of Malt, it helps a bit to understand the memory layout, which is triggered by the sizes of the allocation you are making in your application. So the goal of the graphical interface will be to point where the memory is allocated. I mean, in your source code, this is what you understand as a developer. I want to show what are the properties of the allocated chunk, so the sizes, the lifetime, etc. Possibly to point what, at least to detect the bad allocation patterns, which can hit the performance. or the memory consumption. I want to show the leaks. Here there is already some existing tools, but I can have these properties in Malt also. And I want to show the memory used by global variables and thread local storages, which is often used by Fortran applications. This is mostly where the problem stands. TLS also, this is probably the unique tool which is reporting the memory used by TLS. At least one I know. So let's take an example of code to show the list of problems which can arise with just a simple example. So the first problem you can have is global variables. For example, you can have a global variable which for some reasons take a few gigabytes and you forgot. I already seen that in a real code during a meeting, and one of the PhD students side me had some troubles to run on his cluster, and we passed Malt, and one of the reasons was because he, for some test, grown a variable to a few gigabytes and forgot to reduce it after that, and forgot it for years, and at some point it was making a limitation for him to run on clusters. So let's say that we can detect this with Malt. Of course, we can also call some libraries in our application, and probably this library is making some memory allocation we don't know. So we can call this indirect allocations. Malt is also tracking them and showing them to you. We can have some leaks here because I'm making a new allocation without having any delete at the end. So this Valgrind is already reporting it, but Malt is showing it easily, probably in an easier way. We can have also some dynamic allocation with very large size, which might probably lead to out of memory, and we want to detect them possibly if it's the case for us. And the last problem is the short life allocation, which is a problem not for memory consumption, but for performance this time. If we allocate a buffer, make a very quick computation and then freeing the buffer in a loop. So if this loop is done once or twice, it's fine. But if this loop is done millions of times, we have millions of short life allocation, which probably means that we will have a cost on the performance due to the memory allocator, especially if the size is big. So if you have some problems with memory like this, the first thing you can try to use is Valgrind. For the memory leaks, you have memcheck, which is a nice tool for the memory checking. But if you are searching about an out-of-memory problem, you have a single tool, which is Massif, which is presented here, which I don't know a lot of people using it, but it's nicely presented, and most of the time answers the basic questions about your application. Problem of Massif, it's using a kind of snapshotting approach. So every, let's say, 1,000 mallocs, it will dump the list of stacks associated to the mallocs. The problem is that it can probably miss the peak if it arises between the two snapshots. So this tool is nice, but not perfect. And in addition, there is a problem today. Valgrind does not support threads, or at least it supports them, but it serializes them, which means that your application will become very, very slow if it's a parallel application. So it's not the right tool for a code which is using threads, let's say. On the other side, you have Google App Profiler, which comes with Decimalloc. So not coming with a nice graphical interface. It's a kind of just dumping a call tree annotated as an image. Personally, I never understood anything with on real application with that, but I know some people succeeded. So some people are happy with this tool. So I present it here, even if I found it a bit really limited for a large code base. On the other side, there is IBM and Parasoft, which has two tools, which is Purify++ for IBM and Ensure++ for Parasoft. Those tools are commercial, so they clearly answer the question in a nice way. So the problem is that so first we need to pay for them. So for academics, this is most of the time a limitation. And one of them is limited on Windows. I think it's Purify. I forget which one of them. One of the two is limited on Windows. The other one is working on both. But in the cases, both are quite very old tools in some ways. So the graphical interface is a bit taking some age now. but even if it's some nice tools to answer the questions. Otherwise, there is in Visual Studio Ultimate Edition, there is a memory profiling tool also. So again, on Windows, Visual Studio, not VS Code. This tool is also nice, but again, limited to the Ultimate Edition and limited to Windows. So you need to pay a lot to get it, and it's not available for free software. So what I wanted to provide on my side, so I wanted to take the same approach than the couple Valgrind and Kakashgrind, because I found it very interesting for the performance analysis. So I want to provide the same goal. So a tool to profile and a graphical interface to navigate in the profile just the same way than Kakashgrind. So the goal is to map the allocation on the source lines. So opposite to many tools, I will take the source code as the core part around where the metrics are presented. And I will present for the memory consumption two metrics, the memory leaks. So what are the leaks at the end of the application? And I have a dedicated algorithm which is a bit unique in the tools available, which is detecting the memory peak and what functions have memory allocated at that peak exactly. So not with snapshots opposite to massif. So if you have an out of memory problem, Malt is the right tool to find your issue. For the performance, I will give some counters, which is the number of allocations you are making, because if you are making millions or even billions, which I see sometimes, it's probably that the malloc start to be a performance problem in your application. The sizes you are allocating, so minimal, average, and maximum sizes. It permits to understand the dynamic of your application. Are you making a lot of small allocation or a lot of big one, or just a few big one and something average? Because depending on that, you can understand if there is some performance. Before, there are problems of the short life allocation, so I present the lifetime of the allocation which are done on every line. So again, minimum, average, and maximum lifetime to find the short life allocation easily. Or detects that all the allocations are allocated for long enough, so it's fine to pay the price to get it. So in Malt, this is a profiling tool, so not a tracing tool. So I will instrument the application at runtime to map the metrics over two domains. So first I will take all the memory allocations which are done and project them over time and building a time profile. So we'll have some timelines in the tool. And I will also project it on the codes and call stacks reduced over that domain. And I will, of course, lose the details of each malloc because otherwise it will make a trace which is far too big in most large applications. So most of the time the profile is between let's say 10 megabytes and 1 gigabyte. This is the larger I have seen up to now in JSON. So for the graphical interface, Malt comes with a nice web-based graphical interface, which is navigable inside your browser, inside your web browser. So it gives some global metrics, so the runtime of your application, the memory peak, the number of allocations, and the physical memory available on the machine, just to compare. So there is here a small summary about the run you have made, the command line plus the host, the date, the frequency of your CPU. And we will see here some global metrics. So I will not discuss them here. We will discuss them more during the school. But we see that we have mostly all the metrics which are related to memory management. So the global variables, for example, the physical and virtual memory peak. Because if there is a big gap between both, it means that probably there is some issues. The number of allocation, recycling ratio, and a lot of metrics which are explained in the interface. Malt is also able to give some warnings if some metrics start to have some really big values or some values which are far away from some other metrics. It gives you some hints to say that probably there is some things to look on this aspect in your application. Those warnings are not perfect, but at least they are there in some cases. So I try to put my knowledge put my knowledge there. Malt is also showing you the distribution of the mallocs over the threads. So in terms of calls or in terms of time passed in the allocation. So you will have all the functions which are instrumented by malloc. You see here that I'm following everything except mmap and mmap, which is a work ongoing. So this is not really interesting for the performance itself, but sometimes it permits to understand how the memory allocation are distributed in the application. Most of the time we can see that the thread 0 is doing all the allocation and the thread the others are making less, but this is sometimes important to get it balanced depending on what we want to do, especially if we are working on a NUMA node, as we will see later. The most important view of Malt is the source annotation view, which is here, so a bit like your IDE. So you have the list of functions which has been instrumented by Malt, the list of metric you can select, and the source code annotated with the metric you selected. So you can see directly which line is responsible of the memory allocation, so either a number of allocation, memory sizes, and lifetime, etc. When you click on one of the line annotation, you can get the details on that location and the call stack which leads to that location, annotated with, of course, the metric you selected. So most of the time, this is a view which is interesting to understand what is happening in your application and at least find from where the problem is coming in your code. You also have a view of the call stack directly as a graph, annotated with some colors to follow the hot path, and you can click to dig down in the diagram. Again, getting the summary of the node you selected in the view. Of course, memory management is also dynamics, because your application will have different phases or different ways of running over time. So you will find some time charts with a rate of allocation in terms of operations, memory available on the systems. You have something like 12 charts available about dynamics. I will not show all of them here. You have also the distribution about the memory sizes. Here it's interesting because if you see an example on an application with an example like here, most of the allocation are the few millions, getting millions of 16 bytes allocation is probably that you are consumed 2 times more memory than what you need, because the memory allocator with a 16 bytes block need to also have, probably, depending on the allocator, 16 bytes to handle this memory. So you probably double the memory consumption of your application if you are allocating your memory like this, and probably also trash your caches, which means that you probably also reduce the performance of your application if you have this kind of chart in Malt. Here it's on a real case. You will find also, as I said, the global variables, so listed per libraries and executable. So the global variables and the TLS. So TLS, the memory will be multiplied by the number of threads you have, because it will duplicate the thread local storage for every threads, which means that the memory is consumed. And distribution about the variables themselves. So you will get the list of variables names and their size relatively on the chart. Currently, I don't yet have a way to click and go in the source code, but this is something I want to add if I have time. So let's take some examples to show what we can see with Malt. At the surface, there was one CFD simulation, AVBP, which I tried when I was developing the tool at the Exascale Computing Research Lab in Paris at Versailles. And this was because one of my friends was working on this application and had some issues at the initialization time, because initialization of the application was taking roughly 5 minutes to start. And I passed Malt, and at some point we have seen this kind of chart. So this is here presented the allocation rate, so the amount of memory allocated per seconds. And we can see that per seconds this application at the initialization, so up to this time here, is allocating up to 6 gigabytes per second, which means that it's exchanging a lot of memory from and to the system, which I know from my PhD that it costs a lot if we do that with large amounts of volumes. Here we see also a specific topic, which is that there is a fast allocation, then it's going down in terms of speed, which if you search in the code annotation, you will find that most of the amount of memory allocated in terms of sum is on these 2 lines here. So this is a Fortran application. And here we see that we allocate a temporary variable, we copy an array inside this variable, and we deallocate the previous array. So if you think a few seconds, you will understand that this is a realloc pattern, allocation, copy, free. So why they make this by hand? It's because that in Fortran there is no realloc, so they made it by hand. But as they were calling this a lot of times and with small gaps, they were eating a bit memory performance issue at the startup of their application. So in some ways they were right because there was no other way to do, but where it was wrong is the sizes they used to grow because they were growing with a small elements per element, let's say. So we made some patches with them so they can make it with big gaps, so still growing but by a large amount of elements. And we reduced the initialization time from I think it was 5 minutes to 20 seconds, something like this. So something very nice. So let's say that Malt is sometimes able to help gaining performance on the application, not only reduce memory consumption of the code. We can show also again for the performance this YELS2 application. This is one of the applications I was showing you the size distribution chart before. So the 16 bytes allocation. And this application, I was testing it while I was developing the tool. While it was not not fresh at that time. And at some point, I was searching why this application is making so many 16 bytes allocation. And I found by searching with the allocation count, I found this part of the code in the simulation, which is making an access to an allocatable array via a structure. But when I was developing the tool, I was really surprised because this line, in principle, it's just accessing a member which is already allocated, so it should not make some memory allocation because there is no malloc on this line. And I discovered by being surprised. At the beginning, I was thinking my tool was buggy by showing this line. But no, in practice, I discovered that sometimes G-Fortran can decide to make some memory allocation for you. And in this case, it's the case. I mean, it was at least in the past. And yeah, so Malt was able to show you that even the compiler sometimes can generate some allocation for you. It's also the case when you are using the auto keyword badly in C++, so you can find some surprises in your code. Here it was not a real performance impact, but I mean a few percent, but still this is something which was hidden to the view to the developers before having the tool. You can find also with Malt, you can search with the metric minimum size, you can find all the 1 byte allocation, so most of the application have sums. If it's sums, it's fine, but if you start to have millions of 1 byte allocation, it's probably that you have something broken in your code, or at least something which could be improved. So I made this line more for the fun because this is 1 byte allocation. Most of the time, this is, I mean, there is just a few, but there is always sums in a code. This is what I see with Malt. So how to use Malt? First, you need to compile your application with debug symbols -g. So I can get back to the source code. Otherwise, Malt is still able to work, but you will not be able to annotate the source code because I cannot come back to the source lines from the binary. Then you just run Malt as you would have done with Valgrind. So malt./myprogram. And it will produce a JSON file as an output. And you just then launch the web view, which is a kind of lightweight web server with the profile JSON file as a parameter. And then you open your browser on the localhost, and you get access to the view, and you can navigate in the profile. The good point with this web view is that when you are working remotely on on a cluster. With Valgrind, you have two ways. Either you copy back the profile in your local station, but you don't have access to the same version of the source code or the library's code, which is installed on your cluster. Or you run Kakashgrind remotely with the X-forward approach, but then you get a very slow interface. The good point with Malt is that you just forward the connection to the minimal web server remotely, and you get a fluent interface in the web browser, which is nice. So I will stop here about Malt. Probably I will have time to make a small demo at the end, and I will move to NumaProf. So I will remind a bit of concept about NUMA. So NUMA, this is what? This is non-uniform memory access. So memory accesses with two CPUs. When you have two CPUs, of course, due to the memory rule, it's not possible to make both CPUs to accessing the same memory. Otherwise, they will be limited as a saturated highway to access the single memory which is available. But we prefer to make such a way that each CPU has its own memory and there is a link between those two CPU. So CPU 2 can access the memory of CPU 1 getting through CPU 1, which means that if you are making a remote access from CPU 2 to the memory linked to CPU 1, you will pay a price. So this means that if you are making a mistake in such an application running on a server like this, you will have a performance penalty. This becomes a bit more complex because now probably you have on some servers 4 CPUs. This is one of the servers I was working on during my PhD, and in this case, you can have several configurations. Either you access the memory locally, or access to the closer CPU, or to the CPU which is far away. If it's far away, either you pass by a crossbar in the middle, or if there is no crossbar in the middle, you access by making the jump between two CPUs, which start to cost even more. And if you want to make even harder, I was working during my PhD on this workstation. This is a big server with 16 CPUs at that time in 2010 with 128 cores. And so 2 levels of NUMA nodes because there is a 4 CPU grouped together plus a bridge between the islands of 4 CPUs. Which means that on this machine, if you make a NUMA memory issue into your code, you will pay a very high price to access the data which is on the other side of the machine. So of course, if you start like this, it's not easy, but you can notice that now the CPU has started to have a lot of cores. So the problems arise now inside the CPUs because with a lot of cores, it's also a problem to make all those cores to access the memory. So most of the memory of the processor provider are now also splitting the CPUs in NUMA domains. So let's say 2 or 4 NUMA domains. This is what you find commonly inside your CPUs, even sometimes on the laptop when you have more than let's say 16 cores on your CPU. And they add up something interesting also, which is MCDRAMs, which is some fast bandwidth memory inside the CPU itself, which adds up a new hierarchy of memory inside the architecture. Of course, if you have a processus which is running on a single NUMA domain, you have no problem because it's accessing only the memory locally. So this is what you are doing when you are using MPI, for example. In MPI, it's recommended in a NUMA station to launch one MPI process per domain, so you avoid totally the NUMA issues. But if for some reasons you want to share the cores in a process which is bound over the 2 NUMA domains, you will start to enter in some difficulties because you will have to handle by yourself the NUMA checking of the accesses and the allocations you are making. Problem, let's remind that about the memory management, you have in practice the virtual memory and the physical memory in a computer. And it's up to the operating system when you first touch your memory to give you the physical memory which is associated with it. And let's remind that it's done on the first touch and not on the allocation time. So when you allocate a memory segment at the beginning, it's just a virtual segment which is allowing you to access the memory which is inside. And at the first touch, the thread 1, which is probably on NUMA node 1, if it's bound to it, will first touch the memory, so the operating system will say, thread 1 is on the NUMA node 1, so I will give memory to the NUMA node 1. If thread 2 is bound to the NUMA node 2, then on the first touch, of course, the operating system will give the memory bound to the NUMA node 2. And if we have a first thread which is not bound, so moving from one domain to the others, depending on where it is, where the thread is at the first touch time, it will map the memory on the NUMA node 1 or on the NUMA node 2, which means that you will probably break your memory mapping in terms of NUMA. So let's say, remember that first thing when you are using NUMA, you need to bound your thread to one NUMA domain so they don't move between one domain to another. But in terms of memory, there is one common example, which is OpenMP. So let's say you have a large CPU with 32 cores. This is what you have on several servers. This CPU is split in two NUMA domains, and you want to run your nice OpenMP code on this cluster as a whole. And you have this example in your code. So you first allocate your memory with a malloc and then make a memset to put some zeros or any data you need to initialize your arrays with. And then you access your data in parallel to make your computation with a Pragma OMP parallel 4. Problem, there is a performance issue if you do that because your allocation is done in sequential, and in practice, if you want to have your first touch made the right way, you need to make the initialization done also with OpenMP. If I don't put the Pragma OpenMP as the first touch is done by the thread 1, because there is a single thread, all the memory is bound to the NUMA node 1, which I then access in parallel with both NUMA domains, so I will have a NUMA issues. If I'm making the Pragma OMP parallel 4 for the initialization, so the same one than for the accesses which are done later, I will split the arrays, let's say in two, for example, and thread 1 will put all the data in NUMA domain 1, and thread 2 on all the data on NUMA domain 2. And when it will access again, it will be rightly placed. Let's say that this simple mistake of forgetting the Pragma OMP parallel 4 at the initialization time is quite common because it's not so easy to see that we make the mistake. And the price is quite high because this exactly the example on the top. If we make this on a standard cluster, a standard server we have today, we can see that the gap is more than a factor 2, which is quite a high price for just one line forgotten at the initialization at the init time. So the question is now, if I make such a mistake in an application, which can arise easily, you can admit, how I can detect it. So I got a friend of mine, Otman Bouizi, which was at that time working at Intel, which was asking the question to me and asking if we can detect where the remote memory accesses are done. So I want to detect the remote memory accesses, where they are done, and we can try to find which memory allocation contains the issue to find the source of the problem, if it's the malloc itself or the first touch, which is badly done. We can also expect to have a tool which permits to also follow the memory accesses to the MCDRAM, so the fast bandwidth memory which is inside the CPU if we have one. So to track all the memory accesses done by the CPU. So for that, I built NumaProf, which is a way to profile the NUMA aspect of the application. So NumaProf is taking back exactly the same approach than Malt. So in practice, it inherits part of the code from it. So there is a web interface, there is a source annotation, and some global metrics. The instrumentation is based on PinTool, which is a binary instrumentation tool developed by Intel. So it's currently working only on x86 64 architecture. But it permits me to instrument all the memory allocations still being parallel opposite to Valgrind, which I could have used also for this tool. The difficulty I will skip here. So the metrics I want to expose with NumaProf is the number of remote memory accesses you are making. So the one you want to track if you make a mistake. The local one to check that your accesses are correct. The MCDRAM accesses to check that you effectively access to the MCDRAM if you told it, because sometimes you think you make it. You want to know which pages are pinned or not pinned, meaning that the pages which are limited to one NUMA domain or randomly placed on the machine, depending if the thread which has made the first touch is not bound at the first touch time. And you need to know for that where the page is and where the current thread is. So NumaProf is tracking the thread location, the location of both. Of course, NumaProf will have a large overhead because I'm instrumenting all the memory accesses, so I don't, in addition, follow the call stacks. So you will get only the reports based on the functions themselves and not the call stack fully. So of course the overhead is large, as I was saying. So if I would have made the tool based on Valgrind, I would have mostly a linear loss of time because Valgrind is serializing the thread. Which, if we have a NUMA application, we have a lot of threads probably, so this is not the right way to do. But NumaProf, as it's using a pin tool for the instrumentation, I'm now able to have, with 256 threads, a 60x overhead on a Knight landing architecture, which is a lot, but quite acceptable for what I'm tracking in the tool. It has already required a lot of efforts to get such a low overhead. So it means that in practice with NumaProf, it's probably recommended to run a small case and not the large cases you have on your application to get something which stays in a decent amount of time to run. Let's show some examples of the graphical interface. So first you will get some global summary. So the first touch, are they pinned or unpinned, meaning that the threads are bound when they are accessing the memory. Are the memory access local, remote, with pages which are not bound, threads which are not bound, or both, or accessing to the MCD RAM. You will also get the access matrix. So access matrix is meaning that NUMA node 0 is accessing to NUMA node 0 or NUMA node 1 to NUMA node 1. And ideally, here you should see a diagonal if everything is nicely done in your application. You will also get the number of pages allocated on every domain. So to see if the memory is allocated in a balanced way or if there is more memory allocated on one domain, which can probably show some issues. Here we see that in this example we have more memory allocated to 0, and we see that the NUMA node 0 is allocating data in most threads. I updated this chart in the new version to show, I forgot if it's threads or NUMA nodes. It's done in the new interface, but not in this screenshot, sorry. Anyway, you should get a diagonal here to get a nice approach of your application on NUMA properties. You will also get some statistics about threads to see if some threads are making some remote accesses and not the others. Here, for example, we see an interesting pattern which we will show during the school probably, where one thread over 4 or 5 are making some remote accesses and the others are making mostly local accesses. So this is, here I can give the hints, it's due to the huge pages, depending on how we cross the limits. So we can understand some deep effects on the applications due to NumaProf. You will also get some details about the threads. So each threads will show you, will be tracked and show you the number of remote accesses for every thread, the movement of the threads, how they are bound on the machine, etc. So you can understand the dynamics of your threads kind of easily because there is a log. And the most interesting view of NumaProf, just like for Malt, is the source annotation, where you will get the list of functions, the metrics you want to look on, and when you put your mouse on a line, you will get all the metrics related to that line to find. Mostly what is interesting to follow is the remote accesses or the unpinned first touch, which is the problematic part you want to track in an application based on NUMA. Let's take an example here. This is an Hydro application. This is a small a small benchmark which was used in a center I was working on in the past. And I wanted to run this benchmark on a Knight landing CPU, so with 4 NUMA nodes. And first run, NumaProf was showing this thing. 26% of the accesses were locally and 64% were remote accesses. When running on MCD RAM, it was effectively accessing to the MCD RAM, but still having a lot of remote accesses, which is not good, and probably showing some effects which were badly done in the code. Again, if we look on the access matrix, we have this. We access from the thread. So thread 3 is accessing mostly memory from NUMA domain 0 and NUMA domain 4. So 4, this is a kernel here on the right. On the left, this is CPU only. And we see that we don't have the diagonal we expect. If where the problem is coming from, it's coming from that line. So the remote accesses with the matrix, we directly found that the remote accesses are made here. So we can follow what is inside this code, and in practice, we will find something like this. Inside this new title, there is a loop like this, which is Pragma OMP parallel 4, which is a schedule. And in practice, it's accessing a single tile. Let's show the problem. The problem is coming from the allocation itself, because if you search for the origin of the allocations, there is the thread buffers which are allocating the elements which were the tiles which were accessing before. We allocate for every thread, we allocate one thread buffer, but this allocation is done in sequential during the initialization of the application, which means this is exact same problem I was showing you with a simple example in OpenMP, because here all the memory of the matrices are allocated in the NUMA domain 1. So the solution is just to make the memory allocation in parallel. So we create a parallel section and we create the threads. Now we allocate the thread buffers for every thread in a dedicated thread. So mapping the memory at the right location. If we just change this in its step like this, we now get a diagonal like we expected. And a gain of 18% of the performance, reduction of the time of 18% before and after. Let's say that this example has been treated in 1 day, where it's a code of, I think it's 10,009, something like this, which I didn't know before. So in 1 day, we were able to find what is the problem in the application and to reduce this performance bottleneck. Conclusion, memory is not trivial in large programs, mostly for the memory management, but for the NUMA part, we have seen that even in small programs, there can be some issues which are hard to detect and to understand. So we need to take into account this aspect when we are making the optimization. Let's say like that also tiny mistakes can cost also a lot, as we have seen before. Just forgetting one line at the beginning, a Pragma OpenMP at the init step of your application when you allocate the memory can reduce the performance up to, let's say, 20% for a real application or a factor 2 for a small benchmark. And the problem is that this tiny mistake at the initialization step can have a cost for the full rest of the application. So it's nice to have some tools to get a view on what is happening on your application. So we'll stop here for presenting the tools, and I will move to questions.
Okay, thank you, Sébastien. We have now a couple of questions from Fins, for example. Does Malt works with MKL malloc free and FFTW malloc?
So if you are using a dedicated allocator in your application, you need to give some options to Malt to wrap them. I can show in the documentation. So if you have a custom memory allocator, you need to use this option --wrap or --wrap prefix. So for example, if you use gmalloc in your application, you probably want to, if you have named the allocator not malloc, you need to use --wrap g underscore. So all the g underscore malloc, g underscore free, g underscore realloc will be also analyzed by Malt. If you are using the MKL, I forgot if the MKL has his own allocator or is replacing the default memory allocator. If it's replacing one, it's taken by default. If it's replacing it, you need to use exactly the same semantic with the wrap prefix parameter.
From Kevin, I tried using Malt a few months ago, but it worked well on a local machine, but I never managed to compile it on a supercomputer. I remember CMake telling to deactivate WebView, but neither the configure script or the docs say anything about that. Or maybe you update the docs since. Was it just me not paying attention, or is it meant to be used only on local computer? I think it's, yeah, you can use on on supercomputer.
Oh, you can use it on supercomputers. Of course, probably you had an issue on your calculator because you didn't have Node.js, which is used by the graphical interface. Probably I forgot to deactivate it when it's not there, so I need to look on. This is a bug. Clearly, this is not normal. But in principle, you should be able to compile it, yes. Thanks for reporting the problem.
Okay, exactly. No Node.js on login node.
Yeah.
On Adastra, yeah, so that was a Node.js problem, okay. Yeah, so you can deactivate.
Otherwise, Node.js is quite easy to compile, but I need to look because normally there is the option to deactivate it, but I probably has made a mistake. So thanks for reporting.
Okay, so there is no other question for now.
So I can probably make a small demo.
Yeah, you have time for a demo.
So I have time for a demo. So here I have a small example of code for Malt. So this is a basic C++ file with some mallocs. So various mallocs pattern. I just play with mallocs in loops, in parallel, etc. So I will just compile this program and run it. I just think I forgot -f_p. So I just compile Malt. So the program. So the important thing is to get -g. -0 is not required most of the time. You can see the stacks quite easily with even O3. But if you want to have more details due to the inlining, probably you need to activate also 0. There is one feature of Malt which required -f instrument functions. I will show you that I can instrument also with Malt the stack memory. To follow the stack memory, I need to have this option activated. Okay. Sorry, because yesterday I was fixing something in my development branch and not install the master one. So I'll malt-webview-ish the JSON file, and I open the interface, which is coming on the other screen. So I put it here. So the good point also with a nice web interface is that we can zoom on to read more easily. Maybe too much. So here, as I was saying, there is the global metrics, so the runtime, the memory peak, the allocation count, the memory of the workstation I'm using, some global summary about the run, the global metrics here with some warnings. So the warnings you can put your mouse on and you will get a sentence which explain why. And you will get, I didn't show during the presentation, the top 5 function on the top metrics. So the allocation count, which function is doing most of the allocation in your application, the top 5. The top 5 in terms of cumulated allocation, so the sum of the allocation which has been done. At the memory peak, who is consuming the memory? So if you want to reduce the memory peaks, this is where you need to look on. And the leaks, if you are searching for the memory leaks which are in your application. So then from that, you can click, let's say for the peak, you can click on the link and you get to the source annotation. And here, at the peak time, I have an allocation of 1 megabyte here, which is the biggest allocation in the code during the run. This is a small application, and I can click here and get the call stack which leaded to this location. So here a very simple call stack. I got on the left the list of function with the inclusive or exclusive cost depending on how I want to observe the cost, just like in Kakash Grind. You can select the thing in percentage if you want to prefer the relative values, and you can select all the metrics which are available in the tool. So let's search for the allocated mem. So the sum of all the allocation, allocated count, you will have all the counters about allocation. So here I'm making 1 allocation. Here it's recursive, so I will have 88 allocations. And notice also that there is a gradient of colors on the bubbles, showing from red to blue depending on the hotspot you are searching for. Here, for example, in red, most of the allocation are done here. This is a realloc, which is in a loop. In terms of other views, you can get the view over the threads, so how the allocations are distributed over threads. Here, the thread 0 is making most of the job, as usual in applications. You can get the call tree. So here, depending on which metric I selected, again, I can search for the global peak. So for the global peak, I'm going to test peak, which is where the problem is. 1 megabyte is allocated at this location. And I can eventually view this part on the source code and jump in the source code if I want to look at the malloc itself. You get also the time analysis. So here we have the memory allocated over time, so virtually or physically. So here there is a segment which is allocated but not used in practice. So I can look on the rest. The physical memory is huge because I don't allocated a lot of segments. And in practice, I have, in terms of requested memory, this is what is allocated by malloc itself. So requested by the user, where physical and memory and virtual consider everything which is in the application, even what is called directly with mmap, the call stacks and the executable and the libraries themselves. Here we can see that there is a peak. We can see the number of chunks over time, how it evolves. We can see the allocation rates. Here we have a peak about making a lot of allocation in a few seconds. The rate in terms of operation also. So here it's a rate in terms of memory size, because if it starts to reach gigabytes, it's probably that there is some effects on the performance on the application. Here it's the case. And we have the system memory, which is available to see how it decreases when the application increases its memory consumption. We can see also the memory, the memory of the stacks. So here we have 8 threads. The thread 0 have the larger stack, so it's consuming a lot. I mean a lot, more than the others. The stack instrumentation is more interesting for Fortran application because also as they are using global variables, they are also using sometimes some very big stacks variable. C and C++ is less useful in practice. Like here, the stack is using only 6 kilobytes. This is not a problem at all. And we see the graph over time about the stack memory usage. And you can see also for the stacks of the thread 0, so the stacks of the thread which use the most memory, which function is using the memory. So allocant stack recurse, this is because I have a recursive call here, which is using a small arrays on the stack. We can see the distribution of sizes. So here most of the allocation are 64 bytes with various charts depending per sizes or per ranges in log scale to detect when there is a lot of sizes allocated in the application. We can see the sizes over time, so which size of blocks we are allocating during the phases of the application. So here we have mostly small sizes plus something growing at the end, and the realloc, which is tracked with all the jumps which are done, all the gaps. Here we see that we are jumping from one size to another all the time by jumping from by 16 bytes, which is quite small. It means that probably this application can be optimized by using larger gaps if it's done a lot. Or here it's 255 times, so it's not too much. But if it starts to become millions, probably there is something to improve. We can see the realloc scatter chart just to see from where we are coming to where we are going. And the realloc chart, which is a kind of a wheel with all the jump represented about the realloc sizes. So from where we are coming to where we are going. The global variables, so which binary is taking most of the memory and which variable is taking all the memory. So here I have a TLS array which is taking 38 kilobytes. This is very small for this program, so no problem for this example. And so here as a pie chart, or here as a chart with as a bar chart with every binaries or every variables to find them quickly. So here in red the TLS multiplied by the number of threads and the global variables presented once. That's it for the interface.
Okay, we have a question from Anton. do you need to enable some special Linux kernel features to be able to use those profilers, or is the analysis done completely in the user space?
It's done completely in user space, so it's using nothing from special. The only thing is that your application should not be built in static, because I'm LD preloading myself in the application. So if you build your executable as static, it will probably not run. But apart of that, there is no constraint.
Okay, so you don't need the perf and paranoid stuff of the
No.
kernel or stuff like that.
No,
Okay.
nothing of that, no.
Okay.
That's also not the case for NumaProf. NumaProf required mostly nothing from the system. So for Malt, I'm full-time on the tool since a couple of weeks. So probably during the school, I will give some news and a lot of improvements which are required since a moment, and I wanted to do. So mostly bug fixing and performance issues, and probably new supports. Python is on the road also.
And maybe one question, if you have multi-process application, do you need to run one Malt instance per process? How do you handle that?
Yeah, if your application is multi-process like MPI,
Yeah.
So in this case, you just run malt / your MPI run your application. So MPI run -np3 malt your program. So you intercalate malt after MPI run. And in practice, so I don't have MPI on my station, but so it will produce a profile for every process, and you have a dedicated option for MPI, because otherwise the process are named. You have seen the profile is named with the PID of the process, and if you want to use MPI, there is an option which is --MPI to say to use the rank instead of the process ID to name the profile files. So that's currently the only thing I'm providing. So in some ways, I'm supporting it in the sense I'm giving you a profile per process, but I'm not merging the profiles themselves. It's up to you to look on each one separately. There is something I would like to do at some point, if I have time this year, is to be able to merge the Malt profiles in some ways when they are done on the same node, but it's not yet available. So there is a question about GPU side. Any plans on GPU side? So currently nothing on GPU. If I have time before the end of the contract I have now to work on Malt, I will try to look a bit on that. Yes, but this is probably an optional feature if I have time. For Python, this is on the good road to get it. So for the school, we'll probably be able to show a prototype with that.
And maybe one other question. Try to spend the last minute with the last question. Can you also run Malt inside a container? Or an
Yes.
container, for example, on a cluster?
Yes, as Malt is just making an LD preload as a library which is injected in the app. You just have to install the Malt in your container and to run it as a standard run on the workstation itself.
Okay, so if you have the habit to use containers to run,
if you have the habit. So the only thing is that you need to install Malt inside the container and not outside.
Yeah,
otherwise
but you can have a dedicated container with Malt on top of all your application, and then you can profile it well, as you usually do without Malt.
So there is a question also: is Malt example shareable? Yes, there is an example inside the sources of Malt, directly the one I'm using, which is inside src lib test. So here there is a few examples. I'm currently adding, but it is not yet in the public repo, some examples directly, an example directory inside Malt, and I'm building some tutorials. So it's not yet available, but it will come in the coming months. So the goal also this year is to improve the documentation and to give some hints on how to use the tool in many contexts and to pinpoint the different problems with some examples that can be shown by Malte. This is in my goal this year. So this is why I want to thanks for the financement I have this year about that. A part of that, the question was about the documentation, so I need to update it. On the website, you have all the man pages. You have the man pages, and you have all the man pages which are available in doc. You can also do man once you have installed Malt. So the command itself, the web view. Malt has a lot of configurations. There is a lot of options if you want to play with. You can also, one thing, sometimes you want to kill your application before the end, or also because your application never ends. It arises once when I was developing in a company. You can say when you want to dump, to send the signal to Malt, so SIG user 2, for example, or SIG user 1, to dump the profile at a dedicated time. You can also dump after a few seconds. You can give, 1 minute and say to dump after that time the profile. After that, the application continue without being instrumented. I want to add one option also is to dump when the nodes has not any more memory. So this is for the out of memory problem. I want to be able to give an option like this to say that when the node is full at 95%, I want to dump the profile. This will be done in the coming weeks, probably.
So thank you everybody for joining us. Okay, we get a lot of thanks in the chat. So yes, that's definitely the time to stop. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. Next week, we will talk about C++ parallelism with a lot of features in the compiler. So don't miss it. And thanks for coming today. Have a good day and see you next week.